Okay, so tirzepatide, it's everywhere, right? Everyone's talking about it, especially for weight loss. Like it's almost too good to be true, all this hype. So we're gonna, like really dig in here, get past the headlines. What's the real deal with tirzepatide, especially here in Australia?
Yeah, and we've got like a really solid guide here, all about tirzepatide in Australia. And we're not just talking about weight loss, right? We're going to get into like how it actually works, what it can do, and of course, the big question, right? Is it really all it's cracked up to be, or are there some things to watch out for?
Exactly. So to get us started, what exactly IS tirzepatide, like what makes it different from, I don't know, like all the other diet drugs we've seen?
Well, the really cool thing here is it actually mimics TDO hormones in your body, GIP and GLP-1.
Hmm.
So it's got this like dual action thing going on, which is different.
Two hormones. Okay, now I'm interested. I know a little about GLP-1, but GIP, that's a new one. So can you like break down what each of these hormones actually does?
Sure. So GIP, that's glucose-dependent insulinotropic polypeptide. Basically, it kicks in after you eat, and it tells your pancreas to release insulin, right?
Yeah.
So it helps your body use the glucose from your meal. It's like the key player in making sure your blood sugar doesn't spike.
Okay, so GIP is all about like managing those sugar rushes after you eat. So then what about GLP-1?
Okay, so GLP-1, that's glucagon-like peptide 1. That one's got a few more jobs. It slows down how fast food leaves your stomach, which again helps prevent those blood sugar spikes. But it also increases insulin production and like turns down glucagon at the same time. Glucagon is another hormone that raises blood sugar.
So GLP-1 is like the master controller, keeping those blood sugar levels nice and steady. And tirzepatide basically copies these effects.
Exactly, yeah. Like think of it as a backup system for those hormones, an extra layer of control.
Okay, so now for the, I guess, like the juicy part, right? We know it can lead to weight loss, but how much are we talking? Like, are those big weight loss numbers we keep hearing about, are those real?
Well, the research is really strong. I mean, in the studies, people using tirzepatide were losing a lot of weight. Some people, over 15% of their body weight. I mean, that's a lot. That's not just a few pounds here and there.
15%. Whoa, that's a serious change. But, we always got to be careful with those studies, right? Like, do those results really, I guess, apply to everyone? Is everybody going to see that kind of weight loss?
Yeah, good point. It's important to remember those studies, they're controlled. Things are different in the real world. You've got genetics, lifestyle. Everyone's health is different, right?
So it's promising, those studies, but yeah, everyone's results might be a little different. But are we saying it's still like a good option if you're struggling with your weight?
For sure. For sure. But it's really important to like think of it as a tool, like part of a bigger plan. It works best when you combine it with lifestyle changes, eating healthy, exercise, that kind of thing.
Right. It's not a magic solution. It's about empowering you to, I guess, make those healthy changes that are gonna, stick. But the cool thing is, it's not just about weight loss, right? We're also talking about people with type 2 diabetes.
Yeah. The blood sugar control is really impressive. Remember how GIP and GLP-1 work? Same mechanisms. Tirzepatide can really make a difference for people managing type 2 diabetes.
So we're not just talking about losing weight. This could actually like help people with a chronic condition. That's huge. But okay, let's get practical for a minute. For those of us in Australia, who are interested, how do you actually get to this stuff? Is it like readily available?
Well, it is available here. It's called Manjaro. But it's a prescription medication. You can't just like pick it up at the chemist.
So first step, talk to your doctor. But I'm guessing there are some like criteria to get a prescription, right? It's not just for anyone who wants to, drop a few kilos.
Right, exactly. Right now, it's mostly for people with type 2 diabetes who haven't had success with other meds. It's not usually the first thing they try.
But what about using it specifically for like weight loss? Is that a no-go?
It's not a hard no, actually. Sometimes doctors will prescribe something off-label, which basically means using it for something it's not officially approved for.
Yeah.
But that's up to the doctor, based on your individual situation.
So yeah, you can't just ask for it for weight loss. It's got to be like a conversation with your doctor. And of course, the other big question, cost. New meds, especially ones that, seem to work this well, they can be pretty expensive. What's the deal with tirzepatide in Australia?
Well, the good news is it's on the PBS, the Pharmaceutical Benefits Scheme.
Yeah.
So the government subsidizes the cost. It makes it a lot more affordable for people who qualify.
Oh, that's good to hear. But even with the PBS, I imagine there are still some out-of-pocket costs, right?
Yeah, that's right. It depends on, your situation, what your health insurance covers. It's worth talking to your doctor and your insurer to figure out, like, what it'll actually cost you.
Okay, so let's say you've had those conversations, you're eligible, you're ready to go. How is this medication actually, like, taken? Is it daily pills, weekly patches,
It's actually a once-a-week injection, subcutaneous.
an injection? Huh. That might sound a little scary to some people. Is it something you have to, like, go to the doctor's office for every week?
Nope, not at all. Your doctor or nurse will show you how to do it, and then you can just do it yourself at home, just like people with diabetes who take insulin.
Okay, so once you know how to do it, it's not that bad. And where do you actually inject it?
Usually it's in the abdomen, the thigh, or your upper arm. Your doctor will help you figure out, what's the most comfortable spot for you.
All right, so we've covered the basics, how it works, what it can do, how to get it in Australia. But let's be real, no medication is perfect right now.
We got to talk about the less fun part, the side effects. What are the potential downsides here?
Right, so the most common ones, they're mostly gut related. Things like nausea, diarrhea, constipation, maybe vomiting, stomach pain.
Yeah, not exactly what you want to be dealing with. But is that all the time, or does it go away?
Usually those, stomach issues, they get better as your body gets used to the medication. And remember, everybody's different, right? Some people don't have many side effects at all.
Okay, good. That's good.
Yeah.
But I think you said there were some other potential side effects besides the stomach stuff, right?
Yeah, so sometimes people get reactions at the injection site, like redness, swelling, that kind of thing. And for people with diabetes, there's a risk of hypoglycemia, which is low blood sugar, especially if they're taking other diabetes meds as well. So they need to watch their blood sugar really closely. Got it. So even though the common side effects seem manageable, it's important to see your doctor regularly, right? To make sure everything's okay.
Absolutely. Regular checkups are important to make sure the medication is working, the way it should, and to catch any problems early. They can also help you manage any side effects you might be having, maybe adjust the dose or switch medications.
Makes sense. But before we move on, I gotta say, it's still kind of mind-blowing to me how this medication actually, makes you lose weight. Can we talk about that a little more? What's the science behind it?
Sure. It's really, really interesting. Basically, Tirzepatide works on your brain to decrease your appetite and reduce those cravings, the ones that make it so hard to eat healthy.
So it's not just a willpower thing. The medication's actually making you less hungry. That's wild.
Exactly. And remember, GLP-1 slows down your stomach emptying. So that makes you feel fuller for longer after you eat, which means you naturally eat less without feeling like you're starving yourself.
Wow, so Tirzepatide is like boosting your body's natural signals to tell you when you're hungry and full so you eat less overall. But is that all? Is there anything else going on that helps with weight loss?
Well, there's some evidence that it might also increase your energy expenditure just a little bit.
Oh.
That means you can be burning more calories throughout the day.
Wow, so it's like a triple whammy, right? Less hungry, feel fuller, and maybe burn a few extra calories. No wonder people are seeing such good results. But we gotta say this again, before everyone gets too excited. Tirzepatide, it's not magic, right? You don't get to eat whatever you want and expect to, magically slim down.
Right, exactly. It can really help, but it works best when you combine it with other healthy habits. You still got to put in the work to manage your weight in the long term.
Okay, so the basics still apply. Healthy diet, regular exercise, no getting around those, even with this new medication.
Nope, not at all. You want to focus on a balanced diet. Plenty of fruits and veggies, lean proteins, whole grains, the good stuff. And of course, getting regular physical activity. Brisk walking, swimming, dancing, even gardening, whatever gets you moving and your heart rate up.
The key is to make it sustainable, right? Something you can stick with. So Tirzepatide can give you a boost, but it's not replacing healthy habits.
It's about working with your body, not against it. But we'll dig more into those lifestyle factors, and how they all work together with Tirzepatide right after this. Stay tuned. There's more to come.
All right, so we're back, and before the break, we were talking about how, Tirzepatide isn't some kind of replacement for making those healthy changes. It's got to be part of a bigger approach, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's think of it as a high-tech piece of equipment, not a magic wand. It can really help with those biological things that make it hard to lose weight, but you still gotta, you gotta put in the effort.
I like that. Okay, so if Tirzepatide is our fancy tool, what are the other important strategies we got to get right for the long haul? Let's start with, I guess the most basic, eating right. Where does Tirzepatide fit in with, a healthy diet?
Okay, so even though it helps you, feel less hungry and reduces cravings, it doesn't mean you can just eat whatever you want. You still got to focus on, nutrient-rich foods, the things that are going to keep you healthy and help you manage your weight.
So it's still about like loading up on fruits, veggies, lean proteins, whole grains, all that good stuff. Tirzepatide just makes it easier to, I guess, actually stick to those healthy choices.
Right, exactly. It's like it helps you resist those tempting treats and not overeat. But you still got to make sure you're actually eating healthy stuff.
Okay, so we've got the food part figured out. Now, what about exercise? How does that fit in when you're using Tirzepatide?
Exercise it's still super important. It helps burn calories, manage weight, but it also, it's good for your mind and body. And when you combine it with Tirzepatide, those benefits, they get even bigger.
So are we talking like hitting the gym every day, training for a marathon? How much exercise is like realistic?
You don't have to go crazy, honestly. The main thing is to find something you enjoy, something you can do regularly. Aim for at least like 150 minutes a week of, moderate stuff. Spread it out over a few days.
So that could be like brisk walking, swimming, dancing, even gardening, anything that gets your heart rate up a bit. It's about making it, part of your life, not some like horrible chore.
Yeah, for sure. And don't forget about strength training. Building muscle can help boost your metabolism, which is always a good thing.
So it's not just cardio, it's finding that, that balance that works for you. Okay, but you mentioned behavioral therapy before the break. How does that play into all of this?
So behavioral therapy, especially CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, it can be like really helpful. It's about the mental and emotional side of things, It helps you figure out like why you eat the way you do, those unhealthy patterns, especially if you're emotional eating or something.
It's about like going deeper, understanding, why you reach for that extra snack.
Exactly. CBT gives you like actual tools and strategies to manage those cravings, deal with stress in a healthy way. It's developing a good relationship with food.
It sounds like a really well-rounded approach, recognizing that it's not just about like willpower, it's about everything, your mind, your body. But if someone's considering Tirzepatide, do they have to do all these things? Nutrition, exercise therapy, or can they, pick and choose what works for them?
It's best to like incorporate as much as you can. The more you do, the better the results, usually. But yeah, it's really about personalizing it.
Right, because what works for one person might not work for someone else. It's about finding what, fits your life, your goals.
Exactly. And don't forget, this whole weight management thing, it's a journey, right? Yeah. There's going to be ups and downs. The important thing is to keep going, be patient with yourself, and, celebrate those wins, no matter how small they seem.
I like that it's about progress, not perfection. And it sounds like Tirzepatide can, it can help you with those tough parts, help you stay on track.
For sure. It's about giving you the power to, to take control of your health. Okay, we've been talking a lot about weight loss, but let's not forget this medication. It was originally for type 2 diabetes. Can we talk about that for a minute?
Absolutely. So Tirzepatide, because it acts on both GIP and GLP-1, it's really good at managing blood sugar in people with type 2 diabetes.
So how does that actually work? Remind us about those two hormones again. Sure. So GIP, it tells your pancreas to release insulin, especially after meals, right? That helps your body use glucose, keeps your blood sugar from spiking. And GLP-1, well, it does a few things. It increases insulin production. It slows down how fast your stomach empties, which helps with blood sugar control. And it also, it reduces glucagon secretion. Glucagon, that's another hormone that raises blood sugar.
So it's like attacking high blood sugar from all angles.
That's a great way to put it. It's a really like complete approach to managing blood sugar. And because it works on both of those pathways, it can be more effective than some other medications that only target one.
Makes sense. So in terms of like actual results, how much does it actually improve blood sugar control? Are we talking small changes or, big improvements?
The studies show it can significantly lower HbA1c levels. HbA1c, that's a measure of, long-term blood sugar control. And some people, they've even been able to get their HbA1c levels within the target range for people with type 2 diabetes. That's huge.
Wow, that's incredible. It's not just about, managing symptoms. It's like potentially reversing the course of the disease, preventing those, long-term problems that can happen when your blood sugar's out of control. But are there things people with diabetes need to know, specifically if they're thinking about Tirzepatide?
Yeah, it's really important for them to, work closely with your doctor to figure out the right dose and to check their blood sugar regularly, especially when they first start taking it or if they change the dose.
So yeah, personalized care, close monitoring, that's key.
Exactly. And it's also super important to remember Tirzepatide, It shouldn't be used by people with type 1 diabetes or diabetic ketoacidosis.
Okay, so it's not for every type of diabetes. You got to talk to your doctor to see if it's right for you. But okay, we've talked about the benefits for weight loss, for blood sugar control. But, like with any medication, there are always questions about the long term. Is it safe to use tirzepatide, for a long time?
That's a really good question. And, researchers are still looking into that. It's a fairly new medication, so we don't have decades of data like we do with some older drugs.
Right, that's how it is with new meds. It takes time to figure out the long-term effects. But does that mean taking it is a risky thing?
Not really. Remember, it's gone through all those, clinical trials. It's been approved by, the regulatory agencies for both type 2 diabetes and weight management. So they've looked at the benefits and risks really carefully.
Okay, so we don't have all the answers yet, but it's not like, we're going in completely blind.
Exactly. And, there's more research happening all the time. It's really interesting to see what we're learning about this medication.
Yeah, I bet. I'm sure our listeners are, they want to know more too. But okay, we're going to take a pause here, and then we'll be back for the last part of our deep dive into tirzepatide. We'll be talking about, what this medication might mean for the future. Stay with us.
All right, welcome back to the deep dive. We've been, really getting into tirzepatide this episode, how it works, what it can do for weight loss, for blood sugar control, all of that.
And now, like we promised, let's talk about, what's next.
Yeah, the future. What could tirzepatide mean for health and wellness in general?
Well, I think it could really change, how we think about obesity and type 2 diabetes. I mean, those results from the studies, they were amazing. And that could mean a lot of things.
Okay, let's get specific. What are some of those, long-term impacts that you think are really important? Well, for one thing, it could totally change how we treat obesity. Right now, we don't have a lot of great options for, long-term weight loss. Lifestyle changes are important, but sometimes they're not enough. And the medications we have, well, they don't always work that well, or they have side effects.
Yeah, it's tough, right? Trying to lose weight and keep it off. It's not just about being strong-willed. There's so much going on in your body, hormones, genetics, your environment.
Exactly. And that's why tirzepatide is so interesting. It works on those those things in your body that cause weight gain. It makes it easier to actually, develop those healthy habits. It's not magic, but it could be a really important tool for people to get to a healthy weight and stay there.
So are we talking a future where, I don't know, maybe obesity rates actually go down? That would be huge for public health.
It's definitely possible. Of course, obesity is complicated. There's a lot of factors involved. Medication alone won't fix it. But tirzepatide could be a big part of the solution.
And what about type 2 diabetes? I mean, we already have medications for that, but tirzepatide seems like it's on another level.
It really does, doesn't it? That dual action thing, it's just so effective. And we're seeing people's HbA1c levels drop significantly. That could mean, fewer complications from diabetes, better quality of life, and maybe even lower healthcare costs.
So fewer cases of heart disease, stroke, kidney problems, all those, scary things that can happen with diabetes. This is pretty incredible.
It is. And there's even some early research suggesting that it might actually be good for your heart
Yeah.
on its own, even apart from its effect on blood sugar. It's still early, but it's promising.
Wow, that's amazing. So many potential benefits. But as much as, as we're excited about all this, we got to be, realistic. We talked about potential risks, the long-term stuff. Is there anything else we should be thinking about, as this medication becomes more common?
One thing is, access. Making sure people can actually get it. Right now in Australia, it's mostly used for type 2 diabetes, and it's subsidized by the PBS. But if it starts being used more for weight loss, well, we need to figure out, who should be able to get it, how to make sure it's fair.
Right, because if everyone sees it as this miracle weight loss drug, the demand's going to be huge. And that could, make it really expensive, hard to get for some people.
Exactly. We need to talk about this, figure out how to make it available to the people who need it most, while also thinking about, what that means for the healthcare system.
It's complicated, no easy answers, but it's an important conversation to have. So, okay, as we wrap up our deep dive into tirzepatide, what's the main takeaway for our listeners?
I think it's cautious optimism. Tirzepatide it's a big step forward in how we deal with obesity and type 2 diabetes. It really works. And it has the potential to do a lot of good.
But it's not a magic solution, right?
No, not at all. It's a tool. And like any tool, you got to use it the right way. And it works best with, healthy lifestyle changes.
And we still have more to learn, right, about those long-term effects and how to, make it part of our healthcare system.
Definitely. More research is always good. And it'll be really interesting to see how tirzepatide changes things in the future.
Absolutely. And to our listeners, we encourage you to, keep learning about this, ask questions, talk to your doctor.
Knowledge is power, right?
Right.
The more you know about your health, the better choices you can make.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive. We'll be back soon with another deep dive into something interesting. Until then, stay curious.